Hi there, my name is David Prescott, and this is just a quick video about the Good Lives model and receiving training in the Good Lives model. It's based on years and years of experience implementing the Good Lives model from everywhere from Hong Kong to Norway and across the United States, as well as doing Good Lives model all the way from Eastern Europe to Western Australia. I've been involved in a number of the book projects with the Good Lives model, etc. And I get a lot of questions about how to do training in the Good Lives model, how to receive training in the Good Lives model. And so I thought I would just approach some of these questions from the outset so that it helps others to frame the questions that they have about the model and how to get training in it a little bit more effectively. So just a little bit about the original model itself. It started with the work of Tony Ward, as well as many of his colleagues in the late 1990s into the early 2000s. Tony published many of the first papers and book chapters and things of this nature. And Tony works in academia and does not get out to do training as much I think as he would probably like, but he is fully ensconced in his work as an academic. So, in very brief, the Good Lives model is an overarching rehabilitation framework for helping people who have caused harm to others. And it originally started with observations that Tony and others made, frankly, that all too often the treatment of people who had sexually abused others was marked much more by what people were going to try to avoid and not do in the future, rather than what they could accomplish to develop lifestyles that were incompatible with harming others, lifestyles in which causing harm to others was unnecessary and undesirable, which ultimately should be the goal of treatment, because that's what's going to help people to change the most. And so since that time, the model has expanded into other areas. People in trouble with the law who have severe mental illness, for example. That's been the work of Mary Barnow and others. There has been an entire community of people that have come forward to help to refine the model, help to implement the model, and so on. One of the people who works closest to me is my very close friend and collaborator and co-author, Gwenda Willis, who is in New Zealand. We've worked together in a number of international implementations, and there are others. Pamela Yates has also been involved in the model. She played a very central role in making it accessible at the institutional level during the years when she worked at Corrections Canada. There's also my friend Tiffany Dent, who's done some important, I believe, work in the area. She co-authored a workbook with me on applying the Good Lives model to adolescent and young adult women. There's also Mayumi Purvis, who did a great deal of work on the model behind the scenes, wrote an excellent book chapter with Tony and Gwen Willis, and also was the lead author on a book on case management with the Good Lives model. And so there's a lot of people out there that have done it. Now, this brings me to training. So I guess the number one thing that I would say about Good Lives model training is start with a website, goodlivesmodel.com. Be very, very cautious about using any trainer that is not listed at goodlivesmodel.com, since only those trainers have truly been vetted by Tony and those who are closest to him. The second thing is that starting the process with asking either for a price list or wanting to know how much training is enough to get the job done might not be the most effective question, and here's what I mean. Ultimately, getting the job done right involves not just doing the training, but also managing and understanding the learning process of those who will be attending. what I always recommend is that everything start with developing a small number of internal champions. That it's not enough to have somebody like me come into your agency or agencies and simply do the training. That really what you're looking for is to facilitate the learning of some people who are going to carry this torch forward and make sure that all efforts at implementation are as effective as possible. I believe your agency, others won't. So ultimately, it starts with them. My role ultimately will be limited. I'm able to do a lot by video conferencing. In fact, I do a lot via video conferencing. Not every agency is able to bring me in. So I've developed a whole lot of methods and patterns and approaches for doing video conferencing, and I really like it. I enjoy it. Hey, I also like traveling. I love going to different places and working with the staff directly. So don't be afraid to bring me in or bring others in. However, that is not always affordable for everybody. And so I do have documents that I can send about trainings that will last up to 4 days. I can go longer if that's what's in your best interest. But very often I find within the U.S. and actually outside the U.S. that a 4-day training can really be an excellent start from the ground up. Now, in accordance with research and the study of implementing treatment efforts, it does, studies have shown that perhaps the most effective way forward is to start with some kind of an introductory training followed by some kind of consultation. In the old days, we used telephone calls. I kind of prefer to do video conferencing wherever possible, but starting with an introductory training, moving into consults, and then having some kind of concluding training tends to be the most effective way forward. I also find that it can be important to keep the door open for implementation efforts in the long term. Some recent studies on feedback-informed treatment have shown that implementing something truly with fidelity and getting better at it over time can take a lot longer than most people want to admit or acknowledge, but I am here to tell you the truth. And so implementing any kind of treatment model and becoming more effective at it can take some time. However, I found that the benefits are worth it. The last thing that I'll say is that one reason why a full freight Good Lives model training can take several days is because it does implement so nicely and dovetail so nicely with other approaches, cognitive behavioral approaches, something called the self-regulation model about which much has been written and much has been trained, motivational interviewing, feedback-informed treatment, and similar things like that. So when you're considering doing the Good Lives model and bringing it into your agency, please consider having an ongoing dialogue with whoever is going to be implementing it. Stay close to the Good Lives model website. Certainly feel free to approach me and I will send you lots of resources that you can look at before you get into serious negotiations about what the best way forward is. But ultimately, this is about your clients getting better lives, leading better lives, and having safer communities in which to live in them, in which to live. I think you get what I mean. So it really starts with a conversation and not simply a price list. So again, I hope that helps. I'm David Prescott. Hope to see you in the inbox, and we will talk soon. Take care.